Good morning, world. Okay, so in keeping with our addressing child mental health issues, today we'll be talking about childhood depression. When I first got into the field, the idea of children being depressed or going through depression was just unreal to me. But over the last few years, I've realized that it's not that out there. It actually exists. I read an article from the NIH website, National Institute for Health. I read an article where they talked about 15% of children and adolescents experiencing depressive symptoms. And this doesn't mean that they have a clinical diagnosis of depression. It's just that they have the symptoms of that could contribute to a diagnosis. What they identified was that 5% of kids 9 to 17 years old have been diagnosed with or could be diagnosed with major depressive disorder. That one is where a clinical diagnosis of depression that can in one of my earlier videos I talk about the 2-week period. That would fall into that category where the symptoms have been ongoing for about 2 weeks or more. And they also identified 3% of children having been diagnosed with dysthymic disorder. And dysthymia is different from major depressive disorder because dysthymia is a situation where the depression is prolonged. It may go away, there's a break, but it's recurring, and it has gone on for a period of at least 2 years. So, but when you're looking at it, 5% of kids with major depressive disorder and 3% with dysthymia, that's pretty rough, especially when you're kids. We're looking at kids from ages 8 to up to 17. So, okay. One of the reasons that depression in children often get missed is that children, as I mentioned, don't experience depression the way adults do. We can sometimes see from the behavior of an adult, we can see the symptoms of depression. We can see the person being withdrawn, the person not being experiencing a withdrawal from their life, the person had that lack of motivation, that lack of energy, that lack of interest. We can more easily identify those in adults than in children. In children, young ones especially, what you're likely to see are constant reports of, the child feeling sick, or the child becoming more clingy or worry a lot more about the parent. Sometimes what will happen is that you'll notice that the child just is not as playful. They don't want to go out and play with other kids. They're not interested in play. They may complain about having to go to school and try to get out of it. And of course, there's behavior issues and tantrums that can happen as well. And older kids, it can show in aggression. The kid could be more moody or more grouchy, and they have that feeling of being misunderstood, and they retreat. Instead of being with friends, they stay to themselves. And so it's similar to the withdrawal that adults go through, but it may not be as noticeable in an adolescent. In adolescents especially, what tends to happen is that those symptoms of depression get dismissed as this being a teen thing, that they're just being a teenager, that they're just being a moody teen. But in actuality, what it is that this child is going through something. They're going through that depression, and they don't understand. They don't understand the feeling themselves, so it's hard for them to express it to someone, especially when they're not being asked the right questions. One of the issues that happen in childhood depression is that it can often go undiagnosed for a long time because they're being dismissed as things that happen in childhood, like an adolescent, their depression being dismissed as them being some moody teen, or a child being a child's depression being dismissed as that kid being just needy. So we have to be a little bit more vigilant about the symptoms and the signs that our kids are giving us. And when you notice these things in your children and in your teens, bring them up to your doctors, bring them up to your counselors, get people talking to them who can do a more thorough assessment, who can identify what is going on with the child, as opposed to just letting it go and hoping that it goes away. Because depression is not one of those things that, okay, you feel it today and then the next day you wake up and you snap out of it. Like people always say, snap out of it, snap out of it. Depression is not something that you snap out of it. Depression is something that happens. It's emotional, it's physical, and it's happening in your brain, and you need to get the help that is necessary to get it taken care of. Children who come from a family where there's a history of depression, like if let's say your mom or a sister or someone in that child's family has a history of depression, they still have that increased susceptibility. And sometimes a lot of when they're going through things, a major move, a loss, like could be loss of a family member, loss of a pet, we don't see things like a child moving from this neighborhood to that neighborhood as being too big a deal sometimes, but that is a loss, because that child may be losing their friends, they may be losing this neighbor that they used to play with. So we have to be able to realize that just because it doesn't feel as harsh to us doesn't mean it's not a difficulty for our children. So we have to realize that symptoms and onsets and catalysts really happen for our kids that we may not necessarily see. So we need to be able to pay attention to what's going on with them and what signs are happening, what clues they're giving us, what they're telling us. And of course, always get help. Don't wait, because the longer you wait, the stronger the disease gets and the more difficult it becomes to address. So take your time, do the research, find the right person, talk to the child's pediatrician, and that's usually a good place to start. Your kids, they're going to be in school, there's going to be counselors and all those people who can help. So just don't wait, because every day that a child is suffering is too long. So just as soon as you notice an issue, get some help. Turn to whomever, your pastors, your schools, your doctors, whomever you gotta turn to. And don't forget, we always have 211 that you can call and reach out to your insurance carriers, whoever you need to reach out to. Just make sure that our kids are getting the help that they need, because if we don't get them the help, the situation just gets worse. All right, so that's it for today. In our next video, I'll be addressing some of the things that we as adults and parents and other people who deal with kids, what we can do to help children who are dealing with depression. And that's it. So that's it. Good morning, world. Have a great day.